There is no other course like this in the world. This is it. I mean, there's only one St Andrews. It's just the history of it, you know. It's tremendous. It really is. I mean, I've been lucky enough to play this course many, many times, and still love playing it.
I just love the old course. It's pretty simple. You know, it's just a place that people want to come. It's a pilgrimage for many people. They just want to get to St Andrews and experience the history of the place.
It's magical. That's proper linked golf, isn't it? You find a way.
So for those who are new to St Andrews, the reverse course on the old course, fairly good representation of how the old course would have been for the outward nine around about the 1880s. Of course, the game in general was growing in popularity.
Yeah.
And, old Tom Morris had come back, and prior to him, Alan Robertson had introduced the double greens. That was about 1854. So by the 1860s, old Tom was back and doing quite a lot of extensions, and the 18th green was built in 1869. The new first green was about 1872. Now there's a lot more people on the course, and so they started to look at growing the width of the golf course. Some of it just happened organically, just as people are walking wider, there's more people, the grass is getting trampled down. But certainly some of these greens in here, as we look across the green, this was really an extension to this hole. But as that was happening, there was new equipment coming on, and the ball was being hit further, so they started to introduce more tees.
Yeah.
And there came a point where I had to decide which course to extend, whether it's the left-hand course or the right-hand course.
Right.
And the reason they chose to do the right-hand course, which is now the championship course, is because there's only one crossover.
Okay.
So you remember
That makes sense, yeah.
when you get out to the loop out there,
Yeah.
and there's the crossover with 7 and 11.
Like a busy intersection, balls going in all
Yeah,
directions.
that's right.
It is definitely a safer reason for doing that.
Yeah, because on this reverse course there's actually 3 crossovers. So we
Okay.
cross over 1 and
Right.
18 as a crossover,
Yeah.
and then you have the same one about 7 and
Yeah.
11, but 9 and 10 also cross over.
Okay.
So I think that seems to be the main reason that we now favour the right-hand
There's a lot of
course.
thought going into it, isn't there, really, for safety as well.
Yeah. And where we're standing is down the first fairway, and behind us is the 17th green, and this would have been the approach shot to the first green.
I think actually where we're standing right now is about as good a place as you want to be. I mean, it's downwind, so it's playing short today, but I know when I played it last year, we were hitting a hickory 5-wood from the second shot, and I was still short of the green. But today, with off the hickory clubs, it's a drive and probably a little pitching wedge or something like that, because the wind's behind us. But oh yeah, I mean, it's a great shape, everything. I mean, it's your road hole there, you've got your bunker you can't see off your second shot, but you know it's there. Use the contours of the green to bring the ball in if you're coming from 200 odd yards away. And with the pin at the back or pin in the right hand corner is quite a test.
Does it feel really odd to you to have the road on the left-hand side of this green?
Definitely, yeah, and of course you've got the burn in front here as well to be careful off the tee shot. So it's a damn good hole for the first hole.
In the 1880s, when the Open was held here, a good drive would have been about 180 yards.
Yeah.
So it's another 200 yards from there. So I mean, it's a very good 2-shot hole.
Yeah.
For some players it would have been a 3-shot hole.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they were using different balls to what we use as well. They would have used a Guthrie ball,
Which is one with grooves of some sort, square grooves.
so it's a
It's
smaller
almost
ball.
getting towards a modern ball, but it has square dimples. I wouldn't say square grooves, square dimples. But very effective. It gave the ball some lift in the early day. Was what they wanted.
Would have been. So maybe downwind today. So actually probably reachable today in two good shots,
Easily.
landing it short and running it in.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
And those balls would have run further than the modern ball.
Oh, this was the king ball compared to the old leathery type smooth surface, which went nowhere. It's more like shuffle ball type stuff.
Yep.
And then this came along and it opened the whole game up now.
So in 1875 they changed the rules that for the first time the tees could be separate from the hole.
Yeah.
So prior to that it would have been initially 1 club length, then 2, then 4, then 6, then 8, and it got to 12. And that's when they were like, and that was to try and move the playing area away from the holes to look after the ground. So then 1875 they changed the rules and tees could be put separate anywhere. So at that point, and that's really the period we're talking about, 1880s up to the 1900s, the tee could have been here, it could have been over there, it could have been at the front of the green, so it would have been quite flexible in how they played. But what's interesting about this hole in reverse, 17th, I do think of it as an outdoor torture chamber. And it gets narrower playing this way. From the other side you've got to hit over the shed and it opens up. Whereas this way, it gets narrower and then you've got to hit over the shed. So I think this hole is harder this way than the other way.
But yeah, you don't see where you're going very clearly, but the green is tucked in behind the wall. So
that's right, because we can now see the red flag is where we're going, so that would be 16 as people would think of it.
Yeah.
We can see the white flag, which is traditionally the second hole, but actually from here, probably the red roof on that the old sort of farmers, the shepherd's hut in the distance, that's almost the line. And then you're dog-legging left, but of course you've got to come over the rough grass and over the bunker. The railway was put in 1852. So that was a time when golf was really booming in popularity. So we had the changes with the golf ball. 1848, the gutta percha came in. They were still playing, both, from that point on, starting to play both directions. So we have the left-hand course and the right-hand course.
This area here where we're now is quite generous as far as space, but we've still got a long way to the pin.
But what makes it formidable is the carry.
220.
220 to that flag, and of course the last half is really over rugged ground and rough grasses. What was we were fortunate to play last year. What do you remember of that experience?
So there was always a few holes when I played this course. I walked past a bunker that was like 120 yards off the tee, and I kind of look at this bunker and I go, it's not even shaped right for this hole, But I never realised. I had I thought that's just the quirkiness of St Andrews. But now that I realised 10 years ago or even less that they played this course in reverse. And it made sense then when all the bunkers where they were and da-da-da-da. And it's still a great fun course to play in reverse.
You need to use your imagination more here in St Andrews, when it's in reverse or the first way around. Does it change in any way for you?
Obviously the reverse way around is a shorter version of the other way, the original way. It's shorter, but it's got some quirky, some real tricky little holes in positioning, and there's no other course like it. All the places I've played and you've played in New Zealand or whatever, Australia, I've played a lot in America, Japan, there is no other course like it. And this is a very familiar spot, isn't it, for golfers that have played around here.
That's right, so they're saying
16th.
Yeah, the famous 16th hole, and here we are at the Principal's Nose, the set of 3 bunkers. And what's interesting about the Principal's Nose, and take it into context with the reverse golf course, is we're equidistant between the 2 flags. So we talked earlier about a good drive in the 1880s, 1900s being about 180 yards, and here we are 185 yards back to what was the second in reverse. It's the 16th green if I look back this way, or if I turn around and look this way, we're looking at traditionally the 15th green, but it's the 3rd green when we play in reverse. So these bunkers are right in play.
Right in play.
Regardless of which way you're playing. And back in those days, you'll remember, talked about it earlier, that it would be week on, week off. So one week they'd play the left-hand course or the reverse course as we know it, And the next week they'll be playing the right-hand course, or now the championship golf course.
Yeah.
So these bunkers were in play
All
either
the
way.
time, yeah.
And of course there was once, by mistake, they actually used the reverse course for a championship, because they forgot that it was a championship week, and it was in the amateur championship was here in 1886.
Right.
And the event had just started and they were 3 holes in, and then they realised, oops, we've got the reverse course in place. Of course they had to let it carry on. It was the great Horace Hutchinson who went on to win. But that's the only time that the reverse course has been used in a championship. And the one bunker that we can see is Cartgate Bunker. Now actually, back in the period, the 1880s, 1900s, Cartgate Bunker pretty much covered the width of the whole green. Through the years, the green has got a little bit bigger, particularly on the right-hand side, so Cartgate doesn't cover both sides. So if you're playing the 3rd hole in reverse, you really want to try and keep up the left-hand side to take these bunkers out of play, and it also allows you to take Cartgate Bunker out of play.
And obviously the tee shot, this is a key spot to be, is over the bunkers, but you can go out right, or you can go down the narrow bit. Of course, the old way, like the original way they play it now, the golden rule is left is always a good way of getting around the course, because everything's dangerous on the right. Where you play reverse, it's almost the other way around. You've got to stop the ball going left a lot in the opening holes, otherwise you're going to be in the railway.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's the reverse nature, isn't it? So even the hazards are reversed in terms of the strategy of the course.
But,
where are you looking to aim to land this one, Sandy?
I'm going to have to land it about 5 yards short of the green.
Now we've got the green, the wind is quite hard off our right-hand side, and Cartgate Bunker is sort of eating into where you want to land it. It's going to be an interesting shot here. Oh, that's beautiful through the air, and just where you said, land it just short, and it's just released onto the green.
Got it right.
Beautiful shot there.
That area is 8 or 7 irons, quite a good club for the little bump and run. You don't necessarily have to hit 5 iron or 4 iron unless you've got to go under trees and stuff like that. But I always say you keep the swing nice and short and sharp and off the back foot, deal off the club, and you can get some good low penetration and some speed on the ball to make it run.
You know, you've got to think about the humps and hollows, the pin positions, the trajectory, the spin, all those little components. And I think if you've got an imagination, then this course is fantastic for you. And we've seen guys like Severiano Ballesteros, of course, win around here. Yeah. But I think for anybody, if you can sort of picture those shots just like what you've hit, feels like you're going to get the better reward. Is that the way you see it?
The bump and run, like today's condition, is a very much used shot. You know, when you hit a lofty club into the wind with all the spin on the ball, you can just dump you. You can lose 40 yards on a chip shot. So you've got to keep the ball down, which means doing a little bit of fiddling with a 7 iron or an 8 iron, keeping the ball down all the time, changing the ball position now and then.
So you think you have more control by running it, allowing that ball to run out?
By a long way.
It was a cross-country adventure.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really wild sort of place out here. There was no mowers. We sit here and stand here today in this beautiful manicured greens, but of course, in those days, it was a very narrow tract of land that you had
Not even a round hole probably either they were playing to.
No, well that was another thing that Tom Morris gave us, wasn't it? It was the drain pipe that he first sunk into the 11th green out there to stop the edges falling in with all the sand. Fascinating about the old course for me is that it's still a viable test for the best players in the world like you, that we can come here and still try to figure out these puzzles and to get your ball around the course. And the book was really a research project about how the old course has changed. I think there's always been the perception that the old course hasn't changed very much, and the reality is the old course has changed a huge amount.
Well, you know, I didn't know 10 years ago you could play this course in reverse. That's the way it was. I think everybody would like to experience what the course is like in reverse.